Ever find yourself just completely baffled by how tricky English pronunciation can be for some learners?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, sometimes those subtle differences that we as native speakers barely even notice can be like major hurdles.
Yeah,
And it got me thinking, you know, this whole world of phonetics and phonology, it's crucial for teaching English as a second language,
it is.
especially for Thai speakers. I mean, have you ever
Especially Thai speakers thought about how
remember how
it can.
different the sound systems
Oh,
are?
yeah, completely different.
So today we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating guide for English teachers in Thailand.
Okay, cool.
I'm really excited about this one because it's packed with insights, practical tips that I think can be game changers in the classroom.
Yeah, awesome.
So to kick things off, let's talk about like what exactly are phonetics and phonology.
Yeah, so phonetics, I mean, we could think about it as like the actual physical mechanics of speech.
Okay.
It's how we produce sounds, how we perceive them.
So like the tongue placement for
Oh, thing. Oh,
exactly.
yeah. That Hathland sound, lots of learners struggle with that
Right.
because it involves placing your tongue between your teeth, and it's not a sound that's found in a lot of languages.
Gotcha. So it's like the nitty gritty of how we make those sounds.
Exactly.
Okay. And then phonology, that's where things get a little more big picture. Right.
Right, phonology is more about the sound system of a language.
Okay.
So it's like looking at the patterns of sounds, how they work together, how they convey meaning.
So it's like phonetics is the individual sounds and phonology is how those sounds interact with each other.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the relationship between those sounds.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So why are these like so important for teaching English as a second language and particularly in Thailand?
Well, think about it. Pronunciation, intonation, stress, all of these things are absolutely essential for being understood and for
Oh.
sounding natural when you speak English.
And I imagine for Thai learners in particular, it's extra important
Well,
because
it's huge because Thai and English have such different sound systems. Like Thai is a tonal language,
right.
which means the meaning of a word can change depending on the tone you use.
Right, like how high or low your voice is.
Exactly.
I heard about that.
Whereas English relies more on stress and intonation.
Oh, so that's a fundamental difference.
Huge difference, and it can really trip up Thai learners.
It's like they're learning a whole new way of using their voice.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about some of those specific challenges that Thai students often face.
Okay.
I know from my own experience, the R and L confusion is a classic.
Oh, yeah, the R and L, that's a big one.
Like rice and lice become almost interchangeable.
Exactly. And it's because those sounds are not distinct phonemes in Thai.
Right, so they're not used to hearing or producing that difference.
Exactly.
Okay, and then there's word stress,
Word stress. Yeah, another tricky one.
which I think even native speakers can sometimes mess up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But for Thai learners, it can be especially difficult
Well,
because,
because Thai doesn't really have the same kind of word stress that English does.
right, it's more about the tones of individual syllables.
Exactly. And so when they come to English, they might stress the wrong syllable in a word.
Which can completely change the meaning.
Oh, absolutely. Like, think about the word record.
Oh, yeah.
If you stress the first syllable, it's a noun.
Right, like a record player.
Exactly. But if you stress the second syllable, it's a verb.
Like to record something.
Exactly.
So word stress can really make or break your message.
It really can.
So we've talked about the challenges, but what can teachers actually do to help?
Okay, well, luckily, there are a lot of really practical strategies and tools that teachers can use.
Okay.
One really effective technique is using minimal pairs.
Okay, I've heard of those. What are they again?
So minimal pairs are words that differ by just one sound.
Okay.
Like sheep and ship, or
Right.
light and right.
Right.
By practicing these pairs, students can really start to hear and produce those subtle differences.
So it's like targeted training for their ears and their tongue.
Exactly.
I like that.
And another helpful tool is phonetic transcription.
Okay.
So using those symbols from the International Phonetic Alphabet.
Right, the IPA.
Yeah, the IPA, exactly. And I know those symbols can look a little intimidating at first,
Oh, yeah.
but they can be really useful because they give students a visual representation of each sound.
So it's like a code that unlocks the pronunciation.
Exactly. And there are tons of great resources out there like interactive IPA charts that can make learning those symbols fun and engaging.
That's awesome. And I imagine for visual learners especially, that could be really helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've got minimal pairs, we've got phonetic transcriptions, any other strategies that teachers can use.
Yeah, well, one thing that's really important is to focus on intonation and stress.
Okay.
Because as we talked about earlier, that's a big difference between Thai and English.
Right.
So teachers can do things like using exaggerated intonation when they're modeling sentences,
Okay.
or having students practice saying sentences with different intonation patterns.
So like role-playing different emotions or situations.
Exactly. That's a great way to make it fun and engaging.
And I bet using music and rhymes could be helpful too.
Oh, absolutely. Music and rhymes are fantastic for practicing pronunciation and rhythm.
And it's something that most students enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a win-win.
Definitely.
So beyond these techniques, are there any like resources or tools that teachers can leverage?
Oh, tons of them.
Okay, great.
So there are apps like Forvo, which provide native speaker pronunciations of words.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's really helpful for students to hear how words are actually pronounced in different accents.
Right, because even within English, there's so much variation.
Oh, tons of variation.
So hearing those different accents can be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, there are also some amazing AI-powered tools out there now
Cool.
that can give students real-time feedback on their pronunciation.
Wow, so it's like having a personal pronunciation coach.
It really is. It's incredible how technology is changing language learning.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the strategies, resources, all of that. But do we have any real-world examples of how these things actually play out in the classroom?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, there have been tons of studies showing how targeted phonetics training can significantly improve Thai students' English pronunciation.
Really?
Oh, yeah, like one study I was reading about, they focused specifically on the L and R sounds, and they found that students who received explicit instruction on the tongue placement and the airflow needed to produce those sounds showed significant improvement.
Compared to students who didn't get that specific training.
Exactly, and not only did their pronunciation improve, but their confidence in speaking English went up too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're constantly worried about being misunderstood, it's going to make you hesitant to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So by addressing those pronunciation challenges, we can really empower students to communicate more effectively.
That's awesome. And I imagine there are countless classroom examples of teachers using these techniques and seeing those light bulb moments happen.
Oh, all the time. I mean, I've seen it myself in my own teaching. I remember one student, she was really struggling with the thought sound.
Right.
And we worked on it together using a mirror so she could see her tongue placement.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And then we practiced minimal pairs, and eventually she got it.
And I bet that was a huge confidence booster for her.
Oh, it was. She was so proud of herself. And from then on, she was much more willing to participate in class.
That's so great to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, it really highlights how these seemingly small things can have a ripple effect on students' overall language development.
Oh, absolutely.
So for all of you English teachers out there listening, especially those of you working with Thai students, I think the key takeaway here is that understanding phonetics and phonology is like having a secret weapon in your teaching toolkit.
It is.
It allows you to really target those specific pronunciation challenges that your students are facing
Right.
and equip them with the tools they need to become more confident and fluent English speakers.
And it makes teaching more fun and engaging, too.
Oh, absolutely, because you can get creative with those minimal pairs and those intonation activities.
Exactly.
So it's a win for everyone involved.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into phonetics and phonology, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
How might this awareness of the subtle but important differences in sounds change the way you listen to and speak English, even in your everyday conversations?
That's a good one.
It's something to think about,
Yeah, like that.
because I think once you start paying attention to these things, you realize that there's a whole world of sound out there that we often take for granted.
It's true.
And who knows, maybe it'll even make you a better communicator.
Maybe so.
So until next time, happy teaching and happy listening.
See ya.